President Trump is renewing his criticism of the Smithsonian Institution. NPR's Neda Ulaby reports.
In his post, the president called the Smithsonian Institution out of control. He said museums throughout Washington and all over the country are essentially the last remaining segment of woke. The White House earlier this month announced plans to audit 8 Smithsonian museums to ensure what it called alignment with the president's directive to celebrate American exceptionalism, remove divisive narratives, and, quote, restore confidence in our shared cultural institutions. But a number of museums and historical associations have pushed back against what the American Alliance of Museums described as, quote, the growing threats of censorship in a statement. Neda Ulaby, NPR News.
Severe flooding in Niger after days of heavy rain. Officials say at least 47 people have been killed and over 56,000 others displaced by the high waters. The floods have affected almost 8,000 households in 339 neighborhoods and villages across the country. In addition to homes and infrastructure destroyed, officials say close to 300 heads of cattle have died. The National Committee in charge of flood prevention says it's begun distributing food aid to nearly 4,000 families. Meanwhile, the government has set aside some $21 million to help those affected. With the impact of climate change increasing globally, flooding has become one of the most frequent and destructive natural disasters. Africa faces a disproportionate burden from climate change, experiencing deadly heat waves, heavy rains, floods, tropical cyclones, and prolonged droughts. In 2024, heavy rains impacted nearly 1.5 million Nigerians in the country's 8 regions.
It's a heavy toll. A new UN report from Human Rights Watch says at least 140 civilians were killed in July by Rwandan-backed M23 rebels in eastern DRC. The advocacy group says the real figures could be over 300, echoing UN findings, as violence surges despite US and Qatar-led peace talks. Witnesses have described horrific scenes across at least 14 villages. One woman says rebels marched 70 women and children to a riverbank, then opened fire. She survived only by falling into the river. Another man says he watched helplessly as rebels murdered his wife and 4 children, the youngest just 9 months old. The attacks followed a June 27th US-brokered deal between Congo and Rwanda and peace talks in Qatar, agreements that appear to have done little to stop the bloodshed. M23 has denied responsibility and did not respond to the report. Human Rights Watch is urging stronger sanctions, arrests, and for Rwanda to allow independent investigators into rebel-held zones.
Okay, hello. It's a healthy, attractive-looking group of people. It's good. Well, I just want to thank everybody very much for being here. I wanted to do this. We've had some incredible results. The results have come out, and it's like a different place. It's like a different city. It's the capital. It's going to be the best in the world. We're going to do what you're doing with law enforcement, and very importantly also, we're going to physically do it. We're going back to Congress for some money, and we're going to redo a lot of the pavement, a lot of the medians, a lot of the graffiti's all coming off. I've never received so many phone calls thanking me for what we've done in Washington, D.C., from people that haven't gone to a restaurant literally in 4 years. And they said, you know what you've done it's unprecedented. And people are now coming in. They're making reservations to come in, and they want to be in Washington, D.C. One of the things we're going to be redoing is your parks. I'm very good at grass because I have a lot of golf courses all over the place. I know more about grass than any human being, I think, anywhere in the world. And we're going to be regrassing all of your parks, all brand new sprinkler systems, the best that you can buy, just like the Augusta. No, it'll look like Augusta. It'll look like, more importantly, Trump National Golf Club. That's even better. But we're going to have all brand new, beautiful grass. You know, like everything else, grass has a life. Do you know that? Grass has a life. You know, we have a life and grass has a life. And it's going to happen fast. It's going to go up like a miracle. So you do the job on safety, and I'll get this place fixed up physically. And we're going to be so proud of it at the end of 6 months. But let's say at the end of a year, this place will be maxed out in terms of beauty. And you people are winners, and I just think it's such an honor to be with you. And we're going to make Washington, D.C. great again. We're making our country great again. The country is very close to being great. When they say it's the hottest country in the world, they mean it.
The Trump administration is pressuring dozens of cities and states that they need to lift restrictions on cooperation with immigration agents or risk losing federal funds. Leaders in Colorado are not budging on this. Earlier this month, the Justice Department accused 12 states and nearly 24 cities and counties of impeding federal immigration enforcement. Basically, they said, sure would be a shame if something happened to your city, county, or state if you don't get off our list. Both Denver and the state of Colorado are on the list. That's not surprising. The Trump administration is currently suing over state and local laws that limit data sharing and law enforcement cooperation with ICE to only certain cases. In a letter to the Justice Department yesterday, Denver City Attorney argued that Denver's welcoming city policies, that's what they say, they don't say sanctuary city, they say welcoming city. They said that those policies comply with local and state law and basically just said, see you in court. Democratic Governor Jared Polis told the DOJ what he has said on this program before, that he believes that Colorado fully cooperates with the feds on criminal investigations involving immigration, but that he's not going to allow immigration agents to, quote, commandeer our public safety resources.
Why do they need masks? They're federal officials, they're paid by taxpayers, they should be doing their jobs in a way that's lawful and constitutional, and that's part of the job. And so I don't know why anybody needs to wear a mask. I think some people identified in some of these drug type situations that masks could be part of a PPE, if you will. That's not the case in the work that they're doing here. You mentioned a meeting I had with MPD, and one thing that the MPD officer said was, well, we don't wear masks. No one should be wearing masks. And our officers, they have a badge, they wear body-worn camera, they are clearly identified to members of the public.
אני נמצא במצפה רמון, לאחר שביקרתי בבסיס חיל האוויר רמון, שם הודיתי
has just escalated to a whole new level of fury in one of the largest air attacks. A swarm of Russian missiles and drones rained down in cities across the nation. And this ferocious assault comes even as the world is grasping for some kind of a fragile peace, highlighting the deepening chasm between rhetoric and reality.
Ukraine woke to fire and thunder. Explosions shook cities across the map as Russia launched one of its largest aerial attacks in the war. Over 600 drones and missiles tearing through the night sky. Air raid sirens screamed nationwide. Ukraine's Air Force says Moscow fired 574 drones and 40 missiles. Critical infrastructure was hit. In Rivne Oblast, a US-owned factory was struck, leaving multiple injured. President Zelensky says everyday household items such as coffee machines were made there. The surge comes as Russian troops march along the southern front near Zaporizhia. Zelensky warns of a looming escalation, with Russia deploying thousands of new troops. The south, already scarred by relentless fighting, could be the next flashpoint. But the battle is no longer just military, it's diplomatic too. Moscow accuses Kyiv of refusing serious peace talks, saying Ukraine's security demands are incompatible with Russia's terms. Russia insists that European troops in Ukraine are unacceptable.
As discussions between the West and Ukraine currently show, all these plans are essentially about providing guarantees for intervention, foreign military intervention, in some part of Ukrainian territory. This would be absolutely unacceptable for the Russian Federation and to all rational political forces in Europe.
Washington's stance too seems to be shifting. US Vice President J.D. Vance declared that Europe must bear the lion's share of Ukraine's security burden. His comments sparked unease across Europe, especially in Germany, where talk of boots on the ground has already rattled nerves. 3 years into this war, the stakes are only climbing. Russia shows no signs of slowing its assault. Ukraine, bloodied but defiant, scrambles to hold the line. A fragile balance teeters on the edge between survival, collapse, and the faint hope of peace. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
Israel is pushing deeper into the Gaza Strip under a storm of global condemnation, with tanks rolling, troops being mobilized, and the Palestinians trapped in an endless cycle of killings and displacement. The tensions are at a boiling point, and our next report gets you the latest of what is happening in the Gaza Strip.
This is how a day starts in Gaza. Loud explosion lights up the Gaza skyline. Israeli soldiers armed with assault rifles are on the move. The streets of Gaza are all movement and chaos. Israeli tanks and soldiers advance into Gaza City, tightening the noose. Israel has called up some 60,000 reservists for a full ground offensive. The military calls it Operation Gideon's Chariots 2. The first step includes plan to secure the outskirts and push deeper as urban warfare takes hold in this besieged city.
We are not waiting. We have begun the preliminary operations and the first stages of the attack on Gaza City, and already now IDF forces are holding the outskirts of Gaza City.
Palestinians have been forced to move again and again, north to south, then driven back only to be displaced once more. Families carry what little they can, often crammed into makeshift shelters as the humanitarian crisis worsens by the hour. Hospitals are overwhelmed, power is scarce, and food supplies are collapsing. For the residents of Gaza, things are only going to become worse.
Expanding the military operation in the Gaza Strip means that we will see more destruction, killings, devastation, starvation, and siege.
This is all a displacement system. We don't know where to go. There's no place for us to go to anyway. We are 2 million people. Where do we go? No places left. Not Mawasi, nor any other place for us to go to. We are not staying in our homes. We are staying in tents. We are displaced, and we don't know where to go.
The United Nations is pleading for restraint, warning of a spiraling disaster. Several European leaders joined the chorus, calling for an immediate ceasefire, while Arab capitals accused Israel of crossing red lines.
I must reiterate that it is vital to reach immediately a ceasefire in Gaza and the unconditional release of all hostages, and to avoid the massive deaths and destruction that a military operation against Gaza City would inevitably cause.
Undeterred Israel says it is focused on demolishing Hamas. It has now approved a major settlement project on Wednesday in an area of the occupied West Bank that the international community has warned threatens the viability of a future Palestinian state. For now, Gaza's streets echo with the rumble of Israeli tanks and the cries of families on the move. As war grinds on and casualties mount, the pressure on Israel to stand down grows louder, but on the ground, the offensive shows no pause. Bureau Report VION, World is One.
By the way, you should ask your Starmer. Here's a suggestion. Ask him, okay? What do these protesters say about Britain? I know what they say about Israel. Israel has to be destroyed from the river to the sea, you know. You think this is a massive continent. It's all of 30, 40 miles, okay? But what do they say about Britain? Well, Britain should go down. What do they say about the UK? And the same for the protesters in the US. They burn Israeli flags, they burn American flags, and they burn the UK flag. So they're basically a hostile minority supporting monstrosities. And I think that it's shameful the way that the Western leaders in Britain, in France, in Canada, in New Zealand, the way they buckle under. They don't have, Europe has gone through the destruction of the Jews. 80 years later, that's what they have to say. They attack the Jewish state and they give a prize for those who would destroy the one and only Jewish state. Shameful.